Muhammad Ali Jinnah, also called Quaid-e-Azam, means great leader, born December 25, 1876, Karachi, India, now in Pakistan, died September 11, 1948, Karachi, India. Muslim politician, who was a founder and first Governor-General 1947-48 of Pakistan. Jinnah was the eldest of 7 children of Jinnah Bai Punja, a prosperous merchant, and his wife, Miss Bai. His family was a member of the Khoja caste, Hindus who had converted to Islam centuries earlier and who were followers of the Aga Khan. After being taught at home, Jinnah was sent in 1887 to the Sindh Madrasat al-Islam, now Sindh Madrasatul Islam University in Karachi. Later, he attended the Christian Missionary Society High School, also in Karachi, where at the age of 16 he passed the matriculation examination of the University of Bombay, now University of Mumbai, in Mumbai, India. On the advice of an English friend, his father decided to send him to England to acquire business experience. Jinnah, however, had made up his mind to become a barrister. In keeping with the custom of the time, his parents arranged for an early marriage for him before he left for England. 4. In London he joined Lincoln's Inn, one of the legal societies that prepared students for the bar. In 1895, at the age of 19, he was called to the bar. While in London, Jinnah suffered 2 severe bereavements, the deaths of his wife and his mother. Nevertheless, he completed his formal studies and also made a study of the British political system, frequently visiting the House of Commons. He was greatly influenced by the liberalism of William E. Gladstone, who had become Prime Minister for the 4th time in 1892, the year of Jinnah's arrival. In London, Jinnah also took a keen interest in the affairs of India and in Indian students. When the Parsi leader Dadabhai Naoroji, a leading Indian nationalist, ran for British Parliament, Jinnah and other Indian students worked day and night for him. Their efforts were crowned with success. Naoroji became the first Indian to sit in the House of Commons. When Jinnah returned to Karachi in 1896, he found that his father's business had suffered losses and that he now had to depend on himself. He decided to start his legal practice in Bombay, now Mumbai, but it took him years of work to establish himself as a lawyer. It was nearly 10 years later that he turned actively toward politics. A man without hobbies, he divided his interest between law and politics. Nor was he a religious zealot. He was a Muslim in a broad sense and had little to do with sects. His interest in women was also limited to Ratanbay Rudi, the daughter of Sardin Shah Petty, a Bombay Parsi millionaire whom he married in 1918 over tremendous opposition from her parents and others. The couple had one daughter, Dina, but the marriage proved an unhappy one, and Jinnah and Rudi soon separated. It was his sister Fatima who gave him solace and company. Jinnah first entered politics by participating in the 1906 session of the Indian National Congress Party held at Calcutta, now Kolkata, in which the party began to split between those calling for dominion status and those advocating independence for India. 4 years later, he was elected to the Imperial Legislative Council, the beginning of a long and distinguished parliamentary career. In Bombay, he came to know, among other important Congress Party personalities, Gopal Krishna Gokhale, the eminent Madrasa leader. Greatly influenced by those nationalist politicians, Jinnah aspired during the early part of his political life to become a Muslim Ghail. Admiration for British political institutions and an eagerness to raise the status of India in the international community and to develop a sense of Indian nationalism. But, by the beginning of the 20th century, the conviction had been growing among the Muslims that their interests demanded the preservation of their separate identity rather than amalgamation in the Indian nation that would for all practical purposes be Hindu. Largely to safeguard Muslim interests, the All India Muslim League was founded in 1906, but Jinnah remained aloof from it. Only in 1913, when authoritatively assured that the League was as devoted as the Congress Party to the political emancipation of India, did Jinnah join the League. When the Indian Home Rule League was formed, he became its chief organizer in Bombay and was elected president of the Bombay branch. Jinnah's endeavors to bring about the political union of Hindus and Muslims earned him the title of the best ambassador of Hindu-Muslim unity, an epithet coined by Ghail. It was largely through his efforts that the Congress Party and the Muslim League began to hold their annual sessions jointly, to facilitate mutual consultation and participation. In 1915, the two organizations held their meetings in Bombay and in 1916 in Lucknow, where the Lucknow Pact was concluded. Under the terms of the pact, the two organizations put their seal to a scheme of constitutional reform that became their joint demand vis-a-vis the British government. There was a good deal of give and take. Both the Muslims obtained one important concession in the shape of separate electorates, already conceded to them by the government in 1909 but hitherto resisted by Congress. 10. Meanwhile, a new force in Indian politics had appeared in the person of Mohandas Mahatma Gandhi. Both the Home Rule League and the Congress Party had come under his sway. Opposed to Gandhi's non-cooperation movement and his essentially Hindu approach to politics, Jinnah left both the League and the Congress Party in 1920. For a few years he kept himself aloof from the main political movements. He continued to be a firm believer in Hindu-Muslim unity and constitutional methods for the achievement of political ends. After his withdrawal from Congress, he used the Muslim League platform for the propagation of his views. But during the 1920s the Muslim League, and was it Jinnah, had been overshadowed by Congress and the religiously oriented Muslim Khilafat movement. When the failure of the non-cooperation movement and the emergence of Hindu revivalist movements led to antagonism and riots between Hindus and Muslims, the Muslim League began to lose strength and cohesion, and provincial Muslim leaders formed their own parties to serve their needs. Thus, Jinnah's problem during the following years was to convert the Muslim League into an enlightened, unified political body prepared to cooperate with other organizations working for the good of India. In addition, he had to convince the Congress Party, as a prerequisite for political progress, of the necessity of settling the Hindu-Muslim conflict. He worked toward this end within the Legislative Assembly at the Round Table Conference in London 1930-32, and through his 14 points, which included proposals for a federal form of government, greater rights for minorities, 1/3 representation for Muslims in the central legislature, separation of the predominantly Muslim Sindh region from the rest of the Bombay province, and introduction of reforms in the northwest frontier province. His failure to bring about even minor amendments in the Nehru Committee proposals 1928 over the question of separate electorates and reservation of seats for Muslims in the legislatures frustrated him. He found himself in a peculiar position at that time. Many Muslims thought that he was too nationalistic in his policy and that Muslim interests were not safe in his hands, while the Congress Party would not even meet the moderate Muslim demands halfway. Indeed, the Muslim League was a house divided against itself. The Punjab Muslim League repudiated Jinnah's leadership and organized itself separately. In disgust, Jinnah decided to settle in England. From 1930 to 1935 he remained in London, devoting himself to practice before the Privy Council. But when constitutional changes were in the offing, he was persuaded to return home to head a reconstituted Muslim League. Soon preparations started for the elections under the Government of India Act of 1935. Jinnah was still thinking in terms of cooperation between the Muslim League and the Hindu-controlled Congress Party and with coalition governments in the provinces. But the elections of 1937 proved to be a turning point in the relations between the two organizations. Congress obtained an absolute majority in 6 provinces, and the League did not do particularly well. The Congress Party decided not to include the League in the formation of provincial governments, and exclusive all-Congress governments were the result. Relations between Hindus and Muslims started to deteriorate, and soon Muslim discontent became boundless. Creator of Pakistan, Jinnah had originally been dubious about the practicability of Pakistan, an idea that the poet and philosopher Sir Muhammad Iqbal had propounded to the Muslim League Conference of 1930. But before long he became convinced that a Muslim homeland on the Indian subcontinent was the only way of safeguarding Muslim interests and the Muslim way of life. It was not religious persecution that he feared so much as a future exclusion of Muslims from all prospects of advancement within India, as soon as power became vested in the close-knit structure of Hindu social organization. To guard against that danger, he carried out a nationwide campaign to warn his co-religionists of the perils of their position. And he converted the Muslim League into a powerful instrument for unifying Muslims into a nation. At that point, Jinnah emerged as a leader of a renascent Muslim nation. Events began to move fast. On March 22 to 23, 1940, in Lahore, the League adopted a resolution to form a separate Muslim state, Pakistan. The Pakistan idea was at first ridiculed and then tenaciously opposed by the Congress Party, but it captured the imagination of the Muslims. Pitted against Jinnah were many influential Hindus, including Gandhi and Jawaharlal Nehru, and the British government seemed to be intent on maintaining the political unity of the Indian subcontinent. But Jinnah led his movement with such skill and tenacity that ultimately both the Congress Party and the British government had no option but to agree to the partitioning of India. Pakistan thus emerged as an independent state in 1947. M.Ali Jinnah became the first head of the new state. Faced with the serious problems of a young country, He tackled Pakistan's problems with authority. He was not regarded as merely the Governor-General. He was revered as the father of the nation. He worked hard until overpowered by age and disease in Karachi, the place of his birth, in 1948. Thanks for watching.